Dear Diary, the moment we have all been waiting for finally happened. John Redder said hi to me. Can you believe it? He actually took the time to acknowledge my existence. I was walking out of class right as school got out, and I noticed him walking towards me, like always. But instead of simply walking past, he slowed down and actually said, and I quote, "Hey, Reese." Oh my, wow. John Redder actually knows who I am. Oh, everything is finally starting to fall into place. Oh, I'm in love. And welcome to the newest episode of Obsessed. Okay, so I would like to think that at this point we have a pretty good general understanding of what exactly a crush is. We know about all the different kind of random facts and different feelings that go through our brain at the time of having a crush. We know different types of crushes, from childhood crushes and long-term crushes. And now I think we're ready to actually, start having a crush. This is why today we're going to start discussing a different aspect of the crush department. Actually interacting with your crush. Now, I have calculated about 7 different stages with interacting with your crush. And before I begin, I would like to note that no relationship works out the same way. There is no set path for how you can go about interacting and being with someone. This is just simply a nice kind of starting point if you're new to having a crush or are kind of stuck in the same spot with your crush. And this is also simply from my own personal experience and from talking to people like my mom to determine kind of stages past where I've been. So presenting Reese Steinberg's 7 stages of crush interaction. Stage 1, the first meeting. Now this is the most simple and common stage, as this is where every relationship, friendship, or romantic begins. This is the stage where you first actually meet your crush. This is where you find out their name, you meet a couple of their friends. Nothing too big. This is simply introduction. In my opinion, this is the only required stage because you actually kind of need to meet the person to know that they exist in order to then, get a crush on them. So knowing about them is kind of a required point with this. This stage is where you find out the basics of your crush. Their name, age, basic personality traits, physical traits, and what their starting relationship is towards you. You find out where you will see them and how common interactions between the two of you will be. For example, if you guys meet on the first day of school, then you can assume that you guys are going to see each other during class, in the halls, and if you guys have lunch together. At this stage, there is typically little thought of romance, and looking back on the early developments of your crush, you start to really romanticize being at this stage because anything could have happened. And you always have one specific moment from this stage that will just play in your head on repeat while having the crush. And in your head, you'll quote it as being the first chapter of the next great romance. Now, some of my own first meetings include the first time I met my 6th grade crush. He actually stepped on my foot, which led to him just introducing himself. Another example is when I was in my pre-algebra class a couple years ago. We were playing a get to know you game where we had to memorize every names. And he got every single name except for mine, which then led to us actually formally introducing each other one-on-one. Your first meeting is your base for your crush. Your brain is actually really good with retaining initial interactions with people, which means that if you have a good first interaction, you actually have a strong chance of having a strong future with that person. Now, at the end of your first meeting, that is when you may start beginning to develop your crush. And you stay in this first meeting stage until you actually gain that crush. Stage 2, the long silence. So at this stage, the first meeting, honeymoon stage is over, and now you have a crush. Congratulations! This is when you will start to see that person who you just met in a new, completely different light. Every time that you see this person, you will resort to a mental pros and cons list that you will start developing on whether or not you actually think you want to pursue a relationship with this person. And contrary to the name, the long silence can pretty much be as long or as short depending on how quick interactions between the two of you actually begin. Another name that I have for this stage is the real crush stage, because this is when your little admiration becomes a true working crush. So now you are ready to put on your detective trench coat and fedora. You can start taking notes in that small little notepad that fits perfectly right in your pocket. Since all these episodes have been focusing on the psychology behind having a crush, then I'm guessing you guys are all pretty familiar with what actually happens in this stage. This is when you begin starting to look over at that person, hoping that one day they will notice you. This is the time where you silently begin building up your crush. You begin to observe the person and finding out the type of person that they are. Do they have a type of clothing that they typically wear? How do they walk? How do they talk? What type of people do they spend their time with? Then over time, you'll begin to learn more direct specifics, such as the sports they're a part of and clubs they're a part of, and you'll just gain far too much information than you can really handle. This is also when early relationship paranoia starts to set in. You begin to overthink everything, thinking that one little moment is what's going to drive your crush away from you forever. And this is actually what makes you start dressing nicer and, smiling a little bit more. Because you're hoping that while you're gaining the information, that at the same time, they're also gaining information about you. So that way, hopefully, one of the two of you will make the first move and relationship. This is your crush limbo. This is where you wait until the real actual relationship stuff starts to happen. This is why having a crush can be so mentally draining, because all you're waiting is for that one interaction to actually push it over the edge. You're constantly noticing every interaction that you could possibly have, hoping that you won't leave a bad impression. It's just one long juggling trick. This is also the stage where a crush can begin to fade away or die. In this stage, a crush could begin to die because of lack of attention, or because you find out a piece of information that you just can't live with. This is what makes you walk away from a crush. Some personal ways that I deal with the long silence are I write songs. It's also a way for me to practice telling my crush that I like them, because in my head I can imagine talking to them. I'm also the type of person to write in a journal every day. So that means that any daily interactions with my crush, I can either write down immediately or I can look back on past interactions. Then another example is talking to a parent, talking to a friend, talking to a mental health counselor. Now, during the long silence, you can still have slight interactions with your crush. They're just not very specific towards you, and they're more in a group setting. These interactions are truly nothing major. However, at the time, they feel like the biggest deal. This time is mostly just filled with self-reflection and intense eye contact. So have fun. Stage 3. The first move. Finally, the moment you have all been waiting for has arrived, and you get your first direct interaction. Either they decided to make the first move and said hi, or you got enough courage to actually do it yourself. This is the first moment where you actually interact with your crush directly, and it is normally a complete surprise to the other person. Now, this is not necessarily a stage per se, it's more of just a milestone. However, I am counting it as a stage for the purpose of this video. It is the moment that takes a crush from being completely one-sided to actually having a mutual flame between the two of you. This is where a lot of fun starts beginning to happen. Now, because this is your first real anything, there shouldn't necessarily be a lead up. You should have no idea that this is happening if it's happening towards you. And if you're the one who's acting, you shouldn't be giving too much signs that you're gonna say hi, because you yourself probably don't actually realize that you're gonna say hi to that person today. This also means that if you're the person initiating this first interaction, not to take it too harshly if they are very caught off guard and they don't have the greatest reaction or facial expression or whatever. They are surprised. They had no idea this was coming. Now, this first move should be something relatively simple. We are not talking big romantic gestures here. Don't come to school with a big sign that says, I have a crush on so-and-so. Nothing too dramatic, because this is your first interaction. The big romantic gesture is in a couple of stages, so don't jump ahead quite yet. Examples of these first moves would be a simple wave in the hall or a hello. And also remember that if you are the person who got the hello or the wave, not to take this as meaning that your crush likes you too. It could just simply mean that they want to try to get to know you and interact with you. It doesn't necessarily mean that they are in love with you. They simply just probably wanted to gauge your reaction towards getting attention from them. Now, you may be thinking right now, Reese, why is this such a big deal just to have a small little interaction? And my answer is, being someone who gets so many long-term crushes, having any big moment with your crush is a huge deal. And for the most part, when you also have a long crush, that also means that there's a lot of time that you could actually gain doubt that they even know you, or that they even want to know you, or you could be thinking at some points that they just completely hate you. And when you get an interaction from that person, it makes you realize that they don't completely hate you because they want to actually say hi. When you have such a long-term crush, you start second-guessing whether or not they actually know who you are. And if I take my crush as an example, then I can say that our first move was a huge deal to me because I met my crush right before COVID. And I just kind of happened to fall head over heels very quickly. We had 2 classes together, and those were the happiest parts of my day. I waited for those 2 classes because I could spend a large amount of time just simply being in the same room as him. We started to slowly get to know each other, but nothing real because it was only a couple of months. Because then COVID hit and everything was gone. There was no interaction. We didn't have any classes over quarantine together. It was up to me to kind of maintain this crush and keep working towards it. I didn't see him for another 1.5 years, and his return was all that I kind of waited for. And I haven't gotten the luxury of being able to be in a class with him since I was in 8th grade, which means that the doubt has really appeared multiple times. And it's just kind of this constant thing with me of saying, just keep believing, just keep hoping something may happen if you keep staying true to yourself. I mean, when I came back, he wouldn't even look at me in the hall or even acknowledge my existence. Until the middle of last year when I kind of got this idea that he had completely forgotten who I was and that this whole last few years had just been a waste. Until after school, I got my first move. He simply said, "Hey Reese," with a little wave, and I went home that day thinking that I just found my golden ticket to Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. So the big deal is that small first little interaction gives you hope. It's what drives you through continuing with that crush and moments that you have absolute doubt. It gives you the reassurance to keep working forward and to be resilient through whatever comes to you. And now I know that my crush actually knows who I am and I can say hi. Stage 4, maintaining momentum. This is a very important stage after your first move. Now you have just had your first actual interaction between the two of you, so now you need to keep this going. This means finding any excuse you can to interact. That means saying hi, waving, falling flat on your face, anything that you need to do to get that person to notice you. You need to make sure that you get it in their head that you want to be a part in their life somehow. And the hard thing to remember is that you want these to be relatively simple. You want it to be quick and easy so that way there is limited chance that you could embarrass yourself. Again, this is not a romantic gesture. Don't come to school with a sign that says "I love you." Realistically, this will terrify them. Especially at this moment, don't do many things that could possibly drive them away. I know that's very hard, and especially if you waited for this for a very long time, try to control yourself. Because all you want is just a constant reminder to their brain being like, "Hey, remember me." But this also means try to find a fun rhythm. Find moments in your day where you have time to do that quick hello. Set it up early so that way this becomes muscle memory, and sooner or later they will catch on to this and they will also start interacting too. This means that it's not just one-sided, one person constantly doing the interaction. For me, interactions are the best part of my day. And if I'm having moments of just wanting more to have happen, I remind myself of back in the time where I was in that long silence where all I wanted was just a simple acknowledgement. I'm getting that acknowledgement now, so that means I should at least be happy with the fact that I'm getting something. So that means that if you are in this interaction stage like I am, my advice to you is to just enjoy the moment, because now you can say that you're a small part in your crush's life. You know that they now know who you are, and you know they must at least sort of enjoy it because they keep interacting back. Stage 5, the big jump. You know how I keep kind of reinforcing the idea of kind of staying in the moment and having fun with that and kind of enjoy yourself because this is all you kind of wanted? Well, stage 5 is kind of the complete opposite of that. The big jump is when you put everything kind of out on the line and one of you starts making the first real move towards having a relationship between the two of you. Now, there are different variations between stage 5. You can have bigger jumps or smaller jumps, and I'm gonna kind of go through examples of each. So smaller big jumps could be something as simple as them asking if you want to hang out sometime, or asking if you want to hang out with that person and some of their friends. Something kind of simple that's kind of an event away from where you normally interact. Now, this will be presented to you more with the idea of gaining a friendship rather than a direct relationship. Now, the ultimate big jump would be them asking you out to some sort of dance. Now, this is normally could be phrased as just going to a dance together as friends, and that is kind of what you want it to be. Going together as friends helps keep the atmosphere more controllable and kind of easy and relaxing. Now, if your big jump is successful, then that means you're one stage closer to actually being in a relationship with that person. However, if your big jump has a missed landing, then you kind of risk the future of that relationship. Now, in my head, there are 2 real options that you can do if you miss the big jump. You can either go back to stage 2 and kind of wait for your chance to do the first move again, then gain a nice rhythm with small interactions and then try the big jump one more time, or you can just let the crush die. So if you go back to stage 2, then that means you have to go back to having a nice quiet crush. Don't cause too much attention to yourself, just kind of take some time to reflect, but also try to get to know your crush again. See where your faults were, see what happened, see kind of what you can do next time to try to improve and make your chances a little bit better. Also, get yourself to a place where you feel comfortable if you do fail again. So don't make that big jump again until you've already gone through the actions of what failure means to you. Then one fateful day, you have to be the one who makes the first move. This is by simply doing another wave or a hello, another one of those small interactions. Slowly, you will build up those small interactions, again, getting it to a point of muscle memory, and eventually you get to the point where you forgot that the first big jump ever actually happened. Your goal is to try to make this round of small interactions so much stronger than the last, because you want it to be that hopefully this time it will stick. You'll keep staying in that small interaction stage until either you make the big jump again or they make the big jump. Either way, you have to kind of wait and play the long game. Now, going back to stage 2 only really works if you genuinely believe that it's gonna happen, or if you simply know that you have nothing left to lose. I also recommend that if you go back and you do that big jump a second time and that fails, don't go back to stage 2, just move on. If they didn't say yes that second time, that means it's probably not gonna happen, and it's unfortunate, but it's the sad reality. Now, the second option is letting the crush die. This will be very hard for you to understand and to acknowledge and appreciate, but if you know it's for the best, that's the best option for you. This will not be an easy task, as you have put so much time and energy into making this crush a reality. So at this point, having to have it end, it kills. It makes sense just to have the crush die if you're in a situation where you know that there's someone else who you realistically could end up in a happier, better relationship with than with your original crush. Stage 6, your first events together. Now, if your big jump was a success, then that means you move on to stage 6. This means that you guys can start going on your first kind of smaller events together. These are small occasions, normally with a group of friends. You two aren't technically in a relationship yet, but you guys are experimenting with the idea of what that might look like if something were to be finalized. It's kind of like when you have a subscription and you end up taking a 30-day free trial. These small events will help you guys realize whether or not you two are compatible or not, and if you actually want to spend the time of trying to get to know each other and to make this a strong relationship. And maybe you'll just find out that you just like that person as a friend, but then you get to hang out with that person a little bit more and you get to find out more stuff about them. Finally, stage 7, dating and reassessing the future. Finally, after all of that, you have made it to the final stage, which is where you are exclusively dating your crush. Congratulations! Throughout this time, you continue to take notes and reassess kind of your feelings towards the relationship as you kind of develop and work through and see if this is for the long haul and have fun. So congratulations, have fun, and now you kind of have an idea of how to get your crush to being in a relationship with you. Once again, I would like to acknowledge that this is just one path that you could take towards interacting with your crush. There are multiple different ways that you could go about it, and I say have fun, go with the flow, do whatever you think is necessary, and be careful, take note of your own feelings, and do what is best for you. So that is all for this episode of Obsessed. Now, if you have any fun, crazy stories about interactions with your crush or failed attempts of interacting with your crush, please put it down in the crush confessional. I want to have so much fun reading these, so please. Like I said, I will not be posting anything that you put in the crush confessional or anything that you put in the crush survey, which is also down there. Please fill that out because it gives me data towards my DECA project, which this whole web series is for. So please have fun with that. I want to hear, I won't judge. Have fun. Thank you so much for watching this video, and please like, since you're in that area of the screen anyway, why not subscribe? Thank you so much for watching this video until the very end, and like always, I hope you all stay your extraordinary self, and I'll see you in the next episode.